Tenía el día perfecto planeado. Una pizza, un sofá, un maratón de Diablo IV. Llevaba semanas esperando este momento. Había despejado mi agenda y estaba listo para sumergirme en el santuario. Pero, como suele pasar, la tecnología decidió sabotear mis planes. Pantalla de carga infinita, errores de conexión, mensajes críticos que parecían burlarse de mi frustración. Servidores caídos, decían los foros. Problemas de autenticación, decían los tweets. Pero nadie daba una solución. Mientras intentaba en vano reconectar, abrí Twitch y ahí estaban los streamers que sigo con caras largas y comentarios sarcásticos. Otro lanzamiento fallido, decían. ¿Cuándo aprenderán estas grandes compañías? Algunos incluso hablaban de juegos indies, de pequeñas joyas que a pesar de sus limitaciones ofrecían experiencias más auténticas y satisfactorias. Por supuesto, estos streamers no son los más grandes. No son aquellos que son pagados por ads que simplemente se limitan a dar su opinión por el dinero. Y entonces, en medio de la frustración y el escepticismo, me topé con una joyita. Dragonkin de Banished, un juego de acceso anticipado de un estudio pequeño con una premisa que sonaba cliché. Un mundo de fantasía oscura, dragones, héroes legendarios. Lo sé, ya lo hemos visto 1000 veces, pero algo me llamó la atención. Quizás fue la desesperación, quizás fue la curiosidad, o quizás fue esa pequeña chispa de esperanza que todos tenemos de encontrar algo especial. Así que, con el corazón dividido entre la decepción de Diablo IV y la incertidumbre de Dragonkin, decidí darle una oportunidad. Y amigos míos, mis panas, qué grata sorpresa me llevé. Prepárense para un viaje épico porque les voy a contar por qué Dragonkin de Banished me hizo olvidar por completo los problemas de conexión y las críticas de Diablo IV. Después de horas de luchar con los servidores de Diablo IV, estaba harto. Cansado de promesas vacías, de contenido reciclado, de la sensación de que las grandes compañías nos ven como cajeros automáticos. Dragonkin, en cambio, me recibió con los brazos abiertos. Sí, tenía sus imperfecciones, como todo juego de acceso anticipado, pero se notaba el cariño, la pasión, el esfuerzo de un equipo que realmente se preocupa por su creación. El mundo de Dragonkin es oscuro, sí, pero también es vibrante, lleno de vida y misterio. Cada bioma, desde las junglas exuberantes hasta los pantanos tóxicos, está diseñado con un nivel de detalle que te invita a explorar. Y los monstruos, bueno, no solo son sacos de boxeo con barras de vida. Cada uno tiene sus propias habilidades, sus propias debilidades y su propia historia. Y luego están los señores dragones. Esos sí que son jefes de verdad. Desafiantes, implacables. Cada batalla es un duelo a muerte. Un baile de espadas y hechizos que te deja sin aliento. Y cuando finalmente logras derrotar a uno, la sensación de logro es indescriptible. La Cuadrícula Ancestral es un punto fuerte. Es un sistema de progresión que te permite crear héroes únicos, con builds personalizadas que se adaptan a tu estilo de juego. ¿Quieres un oráculo que lance tornados de fuego? Adelante. ¿Un bárbaro que invoque golems de hielo? Por supuesto. Las posibilidades son infinitas y la experimentación es clave. Y la ciudad, vaya ciudad, es el corazón de Dragonkin, el refugio de la humanidad en un mundo hostil. Y tú, como jugador, tienes el poder de moldearla, de decidir su destino. La convertirás en un bastión inexpugnable, en un centro de comercio próspero, en un faro de esperanza. La decisión es tuya y las consecuencias son reales. En resumen, Dragonkin de Banished es un RPG que te atrapa desde el primer momento. Te desafía, te emociona, te sorprende y te recuerda por qué amamos los videojuegos, por la capacidad de transportarnos a mundos increíbles, de vivir aventuras épicas, de sentirnos parte de algo más grande. Después de la decepción de Diablo IV, Dragonkin me devolvió la fe a los videojuegos. Me recordó que todavía hay estudios que se preocupan por la calidad, por la innovación, por la experiencia del jugador. Y me hizo pensar en lo injustas que son a veces las críticas de los streamers, que a menudo se centran en los grandes lanzamientos y olvidan a las pequeñas ollas que merecen nuestra atención. Falta de inversión. Así que si estás cansado de los juegos que todo el mundo juega, el que está de moda, estar gastando constantemente dinero porque sale un videojuego nuevo, te voy a recomendar esta joyita Dragonkin de Banished que conseguí gracias a este tipo de fallos, y te invito a que tú también actúes de la misma manera y no te dejes atrapar por el montón. Te voy a dejar un gameplay que sustenta todo lo que te estoy diciendo y te invito a que te quedes hasta el final para que veas que cada minuto vale la pena. Mientras haces eso, te voy a pedir que te suscribas, que es totalmente gratis. Dale ahí abajo al botón de suscribir. Así me apoyas a seguir creciendo como comunidad y seguir grabando estos videos brutales. Sígueme en las redes sociales para que te enteres de noticias, lanzamientos, actualizaciones y mucho más. Todo lo del mundo gaming lo consigues aquí. Comenta qué te pareció este videojuego, cuál es tu opinión, a cuál se te parece más, si se te parece más a Diablo, a Last Epoch o a cuál otro. ¿Cuál se te viene a la mente? Déjame en los comentarios qué te pareció, quédate hasta el final porque las batallas son increíbles y las cinemáticas son pura belleza.
The voice of the Dragon Lord blighted people's spirits and petrified their bodies, instilling terror and madness into those who heard it. Never before had a breach so vast been rent between the two worlds. It was here, at this wound between worlds, that the corruption was most potent. One by one, haunted by the whispers from below, the people succumbed to madness. Draconic blood sullied the earth and corrupted the creatures that trod upon it. Pitiful in their wretchedness, and too weak to resist the command of their new masters, they drank the blood of the dragon and gave in to depravity. Thus enslaved, they were twisted into ghastly monsters, mockeries, Dragonkin. Men, women, children, animals, for as many slaves as there were devoted to their cruel masters, just as many grotesque monsters blindly obeyed any order given to them by their dragon lord. Only the most righteous of souls, guided and supported by the Eternal, were able to resist the corrupting call that led the living to damnation. These righteous few bore the feeble flame of man through the darkest shadow, and though it flickered, it would not be extinguished. Filled with these fleeting embers of hope, a few brave souls founded an alliance to carve the first breach into draconic defenses. Here, the Dragonkin's power was strong. It fused our world with that of the Banished. Godefroy of Clairval heroically broke through and shattered their defense barriers. This act of bravery, a feat of the righteous alliance of men, allowed me to lend aid to the Knights of the Order of the Eternal. Me, Almantia, Grand Oracle of Pytho Durkan, Dragon Blood, a human altered but not consumed by the draconic blood that flows through my veins. My sisters and I have powers given to us by the dragon, but our souls remain our own. Neither Dragonkin nor entirely human, and afforded extraordinary abilities by our forebearers. By those who drank the blood of the only banished dragon to have ever repented before the Eternal. These few drops of draconic blood connected our thoughts to those of the dragons. Struck by fleeting visions, we sought glimpses into their deeds and understanding of the feelings that drove them. With that understanding came a vulnerability. We soon learned that we were at the mercy of their whispers. The voices threatened to consume us, with no hope of salvation. But the formidable link that connected us to the dragons had also awakened something within us. We lived strong in the certainty that the Eternal had pardoned us for the draconic corruption in our veins. Our civilization fell alongside the blue dragon Pythodurcan, forcing us to live amongst men in the city of the Order of the Eternal. Closer to the breach made by Sir Ichnog, Godefroy, fighting fire with fire, confronted the draconic hordes. I battled by his side, but my strategy was less direct. My draconic power allowed me to open up a passageway for the men of Nurogard, all of them prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice to save what remained of humanity. Once this invisible barrier had been breached, they knew that their lives would hang by mere threads. But these warriors from the north cared little for the uncertainties of our plan. A hero's death in the heat of battle with their enemy was the greatest honor that could befall them. Led by the pale dragon blood Harald Truelson, the barbarian fleet had but one objective: to lure the enemy into the open sea and leave the path to the breach vulnerable. If a single vessel reached the coast, then this sacrifice would not have been for naught. Harald Truelson reached the hostile shore and avenged those fallen from the Toriel clan. The barbarians of Nurogard feared neither pain nor death, and they welcomed violence as they might an old and familiar friend. Truelson knew this friend better than most. His existence thus far had been one of suffering, of hardening his resolve, and of preparing to endure the worst of torments, without losing the one thing of value every warrior of his clan held dear: his soul. While the Knights of the Order of the Eternal had always been forbidden from making use of dragon's blood, the warriors from the north, staying true to their values, had taken this risk. A select few, highly trained clansmen, risking their lives in the process, had successfully imbibed the pale dragon's blood without succumbing to the corrupting voices. Among them was Truelson. To become a dragon blood barbarian, he paid the ultimate price and cast away a portion of his humanity. In exchange, he received draconic powers that he put to use for the Toriel clan, the Eternal, and humanity at large. And even if all others, from Montesky to Nurogard, recognized the courage and sacrifice of these brave warriors, there was not one that did not also regard them with sincere disgust. While there could be no doubt of their loyalty to Toriel, defender of the Eternal, their bodies, defiled by the dragon as they were, drove the rest of mankind to reject them. Truelson, for his part, cared little for his appearance. What did this matter after all, as long as his soul remained intact? The pale dragon blood had achieved his goal. The Alliance's plan, as unlikely as it was to succeed, could run its course. The barbarian waited for the signal that would tell him where to carve a bloody path through enemy defenses and lure the dragons far away from the breach. The Kongirati nomads, every bit as proud and as fearless as the warriors from the north, joined the alliance of men to help push back Sor Iknog, the Crimson Dragon. Sitting astride their draconic hybrids, these tracker archers faced the dragons steadfastly and seemingly without fear. Not one would allow the enemy to make easy prey of them. Hides, wings, teeth, blood. For the Kongirati, each draconic monstrosity was not only a threat, but also a quarry from which they could gain valuable resources. And where others had begged and prayed for divine salvation, these nomads made full use of anything the earth and providence offered them in order to survive. Their master tracker, Eula, however, did not see things in such stark shades of black and white. Of all those who made up their number, she was the first to recognize the value of this eternal light. She rejected neither the ancestral traditions nor the tracking of the Dragonkin, who had made it possible for the Kongirat to excel in the arts of potions, alchemy, poisons, and draconic hybridization. How long would her people be able to continue traveling freely if the corruption were to poison the entire world? It was for this reason that she joined the Alliance of Men. To seal this union, the Order of the Eternal entrusted her with one of their most powerful relics, a single, glimmering scale of light. If the legends are to be believed, this scale had been pried from the hide of one of the Drakeels in the heat of battle, back when these beings of light had pushed back the banished dragon lords that ventured too close to the surface. Each champion had one, and the power of their light would be needed to push Sor Iknog back into the shadows. It was up to Eula, armed with her scale of light, to cast the invocation. She would then know whether she had been right to put her trust in the Order and in joining the Alliance. The power of the light was like nothing ever seen before. We heard the Dragon Lord howl into our minds, racked with pain and rage. So close to the Dracomundus, our souls suffered as from 1,000 deaths, but we held fast to our positions. Inch by inch, the divine light pushed the corruption back into the breach, and it was thus that the Banished Lord saw Ignog disappeared once more into the shadows, where he would suffer eternal retribution. Once calm fell, we were all that was left, the sole witnesses to the feat accomplished by the Alliance of Men. But more than ever, we knew that the taint of draconic depravity still festered.